As the supreme rulers of innumerable universes, the Galactic Lords were well known across the galaxy, and their reign was vast. Galactic Lords, a planet populated by lesser species who hardly comprehended the sophisticated physics of interstellar life, considered Earth to be an inconvenience, another planet to conquer rather than a danger. Resources. Earth's initial reaction was a typical frenzied rush to be ready for the impending invasion. Leaders banded together to mobilize their little resources and concentrate on creating fortifications that, despite their greatest efforts, humanity's technology was unable to stop the invasion. The Galactic Lords' powerful weaponry made their spacecraft invincible to Earth's most advanced weaponry, and the troops were taught to quickly and effectively crush any opposition, as the first battles demonstrated. A dire scenario of Earth's prospects, with humanity fleeing to prevent complete annihilation. But Earth had something the Cosmic Lords could not foresee, an inventiveness that would result from Unity's poisoning. When pushed to the limit, desperate humans shown an amazing capacity to see beyond their traditional, although the Galactic Lord depended on their superior technology and the quantity of Earth's defenders' unusual methods. Take advantage of fortificativeness, which is when a group desperate to find answers, a group of scientists and strategists who focused on the natural world's wolves. For millennia, people had used natural plants as emblems of strength, cunning, and adaptability. Examine their group dynamics, hunting tactics, and these for survival and elements trade and cooperations. Efficient hunters, especially when facing bigger and stronger prey. The question was whether wolves might be used in a hoe. Could their untamed impulses, refined over millennia of evolution, be used in a battle that transcended Earth's boundaries? And in a conflict with an adversary who viewed them as unimportant, the notion was greeted with initial distrust. However, the idea wasn't to directly pit machines against wolves. Rather, it was about using their special abilities in ways that technology couldn't match. Wolves relied on their instincts and intelligence, characteristics that no algorithm could completely replicate, such as their capacity to monitor, adjust, and achieve. Their ability to hunt in any setting was unmatched, and their pack mentality allowed them to function as a cohesive team. Without Earth scientists started investigating the possibility of incorporating wolves into the group. The first step in their defense approach was to thoroughly analyze their innate skills through observed them in controlled settings, to examine their hunting habits, stress responses, and strategies for communication. The objective was to improve their nature rather than alter it. It was suggested that genetic changes may improve their resistance, stamina, and ability to adjust to unfamiliar beings. And these improvements would enable them to endure in situations that no terrestrial species had ever experienced, anything from severe gravity forces to oxygen-deficient atmospheres. The moralities, the project's ramifications were highly contested. Was it appropriate to employ living things as weapons of war? Would it improve opponents' claims that because of their watching past? Although supporters argued that Earth's existence warranted extraordinary measures, in the end, the grim fact that Earth could not afford to turn down any possibility led to the decision to move forward. As the research progressed, the emphasis switched to fostering a mutually beneficial relationship between humans, and wolves were to be allies with a common goal rather than mindless weapons. Using brain interfaces, specific training programs were created to acquaint the wolves with human commands. It made communication easy. These interfaces didn't manipulate the wolves, but instead offered a method by which people can communicate strategic information while letting the animals do their adapting thing. The result of their endeavor was a new force that combined the unadulterated might of nature with the intelligence of the comparatively scienced arena. They could traverse terrain because they were more flexible and able to carry out intricate plans. That human soldiers were unable to identify adversaries concealed by sophisticated cloaking technology and launch a fierce attack that the Galactic Lords, whose conceit prevented them from seeing the potential of lesser beings, were unmatched by any machine. These animals were mysterious, and Earth's creative use of wolves was its response to technological superiority. of the Galactic Lords was a tactic that relied on overcoming the adversary's power rather than they viewed the cosmos as a territory to be subjugated rather than as a source of Earth's defenders. However, recognized that survival frequently required finding strength in unexpected places. Hence, the choice to release wolves onto Galactic Lords was a declaration rather than merely a tactical move. It served as a reminder that humanity would not be defeated by brute power even in the face of, despite the overwhelming odds, they would manage to fight back. And as the wolves got ready to enter the battlefield, the entire globe waited to learn if the wolf selection process would be successful after this unprecedented gamble. That would lead Earth's opposition to the cosmic lords was methodical and motivated by a distinct knowledge of the characteristics needed. Not all wolves were appropriate for this extraordinary mission, and scientists and orchestrators, the goal of strategists, was to pinpoint particular breeds that were renowned for their intelligence, agility, and pact. The candidates were selected on the basis of their capacity to respond to stimuli, work well in teams, and adjust to the good. After the selecting process was finished, attention turned to improving their skills using cutting-edge genetics. The purpose of engineering was to enhance their innate capabilities rather than change them into something artificial. Enhanced endurance was one of the changes made to meet the demands of intergalactic warfare. Adaptability to harsh temperatures and the capacity to flourish in conditions with low oxygen or high gravity. These adjustments were made with care to maintain the wolf's natural instincts, guaranteeing that they could still depend on. The wolves' genetic improvements paralleled the same abilities that made them successful predators on rigorous training courses intended to equip them with the particular difficulties of opposing an extraterrestrial army. These programs that were significantly more demanding than any conventional military instruction, and the wolves were placed in surrounding that hazards and in conditions of unfamiliar terrains when traversing landscapes with different scenarios from having was designed to make sure they could function well in circumstances. Leaders' training placed a strong emphasis on independence and adaptation in unusual situations, enabling the wolves to make snap decisions, choice without the need for human involvement. The training sessions also included aspects of alien behavior. Wolves developed the ability to use their enhanced perception to pick up on the minute signs that indicated an enemy's position or movement, senses to obtain an edge in tracking and stealth. These abilities were essential for outwitting an adversary that mostly depended on technology and tried and true tactics. Pack dynamics played a crucial part in determining the wolves' emotional state. In contrast to human warriors, wolves naturally functioned within a leader's rows with each pack and established a structure that allowed them to work together without continual supervision. Their function was determined by instinct rather than by outside instruction. And this arrangement made sure that every wolf group collaborated with every other member to help the human handlers complete the job successfully, who acknowledged the significance of this dynamic and modified their tactics to enhance rather than interfere with it in order to vary and improve. Researchers created neural connections to help wolves and their human counterparts communicate by bridging apps. These interfaces bridged the species gap by enabling people to transmit orders and receive feedback without disrupting the wolf's natural cognitive processes, in contrast to conventional techniques of instead of overriding the wolf's instincts. These devices improved establishing a collaboration in which humans gave strategic direction and the wolves carried it out. This method kept the animal's capacity to work autonomously, which is a crucial component with accuracy and autonomy. In preserving their efficacy in uncertain situations, the evolution of these neural interfaces were a game changer for the project, since they were more than just instruments for giving orders. They were a way to building human-wolf trust and understanding through these relationships. Handlers learned into the wolf's perspective, enabling them to adjust their tactics in response to immediate input. This partnership muddled the lines between species, forging a connection that went beyond conventional ideas of hierarchy and command, driven by the focus on beyond technology, strength and loyalty and respect for one another. This interpersonal relationship was essential for building the because wolves are naturally gregarious animals. The program's success hinged on their willingness to collaborate. By cultivating these relationships, handlers guaranteed their faith in their human counterpart that, under the most difficult circumstances, the wolves stayed dedicated to the goal. Whereas although the training programs and changes were revolutionary, there were difficulties in acclimating wolves to conditions and dangers they had never faced, necessitated ongoing innovation, with some improvements made first, caused unforeseen adverse effects such overstimulation or trouble adjusting to artificial atmospheres. Scientists used iterative procedures to solve these hurdles in improving their strategies to balance the preservation and enhancement of natural characteristics. And each failure was viewed as a learning opportunity that ultimately contributed to the program's success notwithstanding. The project's focus on improvements never obscured the wolf's inherent worth as morally upright living beings. With stringent procedures in place to guarantee their welfare, concerns remained a top priority, and the wolves were rights opposing any actions that put outcomes before of humane treatment. This dedication to moral standards strengthened the idea that the wolves were allies in a common struggle for survival, rather than merely tools. As the experiment developed, the wolves showed powers beyond what was expected of them, including the capacity to overturn ecosystems that predicted opponent movements and carry out well-coordinated tactics. Shown the effectiveness of the strategy, they were not only demonstrating that the integration of natural instincts and focused improvements could yield outcomes that technology by itself could not. The last stage of preparation entailed the wolves' integration into larger military operations, necessitated cooperation between human soldiers and robotic castes, guaranteed smooth cooperation during joint training, tested their capacity for teamwork under duress, with troops and wolves learning to predict one another's nutritional needs. These activities strengthened the interdependence of species, becoming a unified entity that cared. Together, they created a force that was unlike anything the Galactic Lords had ever encountered. Faced the wolves, who represented the finest aspects of science and nature, demonstrating humanity's capacity for innovation and the encouragement of species. Their presence questioned accepted notions of combat in the face of existential dangers, demonstrating that power was not necessarily science in utilitarian reflections. These wolves were restricted to machinery or weapons, served as a living reminder that evolution had given Earth more than just a tactical advantage. They were a live example of humanity's refusal to bow and a testament to Earth's tenacity. To overpower their journey from the wolves' natural deployment represented a turning point in the opposition to the Galactic Lords from the moment they first appeared. Questioned the presumptions of a technologically reliant foe, that the wolves trained and improved to function as a unified force. Using their innate instincts to negotiate challenging environments, they traversed with accuracy, demonstrating a degree of coordination that exceeded even the unified targets. Of the most sophisticated artificial systems were not just physical forces, but also the psychological underpinnings of a foe used to the Galactic Lords' domination, and had become comfortable in their conviction that they were unbeatable because to their superior weapons and strategy, their dependence on legality, they were exposed to an approach they could not withstand, to their non-technological danger. Anticipate that the wolves took advantage of this bright area to demonstrate their adaptability in using instinct, and a natural awareness of their environment in real time produced a degree of unpredictable nature that upset the cosmic force's inflexible structures. Their effects that the Galactic Lords were unable to measure the effectiveness of their warriors' mechanized and predictable tactics. The wolves' ability to blend in with their surroundings made them unprepared for the relentless pursuit and strategic attacks of a living predator. They were almost impossible to stop with traditional means because of their aggressiveness and subtlety, which allowed them to invade places undetectedly, dismantling crucial activities with accuracy that demonstrated their innate skills and training. The strategic application of wolves in larger military operations increased their effectiveness. They were used as part of well-planned maneuvers intended to take advantage of the Galactic Lords' vulnerabilities. They frequently struck at vital locations like communication hubs and supply lines. By focusing on these weak spots, they interfered with the enemy's capacity to keep things under control, which forced them to refire. This diversionary impact permitted one of the most important ways for human forces to advance and carry out their own plans more successfully. One feature of the Wolves' deployment was their capacity to function independently as needed. In contrast to their independence was they were able to absorb information and take action without waiting for orders. Because of their training and neurological improvements, because of their independence, they were incredibly useful when human forces couldn't offer immediate assistance. That their activities might go on even under difficult situations, the psychological effect. The Galactic Lords, who considered themselves the pinnacle of the Wolves' power, were maybe their most effective weapon. When their forces faced an enemy who depended on primal instincts, evolution, and intellect were unprepared. Fearing confusion brought on by constant attacks from animals they'd never seen compromised their wing. The wolves' ability to take advantage of vulnerabilities within their efficacy quickly spread, giving the impression that they were unbeatable, which further discouraged the wolves, their adversary. Another element that helped them succeed was their flexibility. They weren't limited to a specific way of operation, but modified their strategies according on the terrain and the opposition's characteristics. Whether traversing dense terrain, working in low gravity, or evading sophisticated surveillance, they showed an ability to overcome obstacles that even the most advanced machines could not have overcome. This flexibility was not due to itself their redirectionary intelligence, which enabled them to learn and develop with it. Additionally, their presence promoted a special synergy between non-human and human forces, allowing for the integration of wolves into military operations, demonstrated the importance of integrating artificial and natural systems. Wolves added a degree of unpredictableness and inventiveness to human tactics, resulting in a teamwork that made use of both species' advantages. This cooperation went beyond the battlefield, where troops and wolves collaborate to carry out intricate maneuvers that depend on trust and understanding. The Wolves' victory compelled the Galactic Lords to reevaluate their strategy and dissemination. They started to consider the Wolves a real scoring them involved creating defenses. Such customized drones and environmental modification intended to undercut the Wolves' effectiveness, but their flexibility and fortitude frequently made these efforts futile by limiting their capacity to predict and react to shifts in strategy. Made sure that in spite of the difficulties they encountered, the Galactic Lords could not sustain an advantage for an extended period of time. Wolves' efforts have not only disrupted the enemy, but also shown their worth as a strategic asset, but also offered priceless insights regarding the dynamics of interstellar conflict. Their triumph demonstrated that even the natural world still build systems. This insight changed Earth's response to its opposition by highlighting the value of creativity, its flexibility in conquering seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The Wolves' deployment also had a significant influence on human forces, whose efficiency and tenacity gave warriors a renewed sense of hope and resolve. And people alike, they came to represent Earth's resistance, exhibiting the resourcefulness and perseverance that characterized them in the year after. Their presence served as a reminder to humanity that despite the immense adversity there by technology or size, but rather by their capacity to adjust and transcend their place in the clash demonstrated that beyond their direct influence on the battlefield, they symbolized a change in how humanity perceived its interaction with nature, demonstrating that using the strengths of all living things was frequently necessary for survival. Their tale of tenacity and inventiveness served as a reminder that even the most sophisticated enemies may be vanquished by ingenuity and tenacity in their unwavering quest for victory. The Wolves left an permanent imprint on Earth's resistance history, demonstrating that there were always a way forward, even in the most dire circumstances. Their strategic deployments to Earth focused on weaknesses that had been disregarded or undervalued by the opponent. These actions were carefully planned to use the Wolf's inherent abilities, guaranteeing it directly affected how important fights turned out. The accuracy of their actions, coupled with the trustable nature of their strategies, the Galactic Lords found it difficult to sustain their decisive wins, showed the Wolf's ability to take advantage of gaps in the cosmic ether. The infrastructure of the Lord allowed them to traverse areas that were inaccessible to human troops, made it possible to thrust the human troops, made it possible for them to safely demolish crucial enemy operation. Lack of these supplies made it more difficult for the adversary to fight for extended periods of time, pushing them to withdraw or give up important areas. These operations mostly depended on the wolves' keen sense and agility, which allowed them to function effectively in settings intended to ward off conventional troops. The Galactic Lords were aware of the wolves, and they were instrumental in thwarting enemy countermeasures. Effectiveness created a number of strategies to lessen their influence, such as implementing automated defense systems, creating terrain-based traps, and deceiving their tracking with decoys. Even in spite of these attempts, the wolves continuously adjusted, frequently making these countermeasures ineffectively. Their improvements and training enabled them to swiftly discover vulnerabilities and assess new. In adjusting their tactics appropriately, the lack of flexibility not only reduced losses but also made sure that Earth unobtrusively continued to gain ground in the conflict, and their influence went beyond tactical precinctions. Thus, the wolves turned into representations of Earth's defiance against an overpowering opponent. Strength from their accomplishment, seeing the wolves as evidence of the tenacity and resourcefulness of Earth's defenders. The performance of human troops was positively impacted by this morale boost, which created a feeling of unity. The wolves' act served as a reminder to all parties involved in the conflict that triumph was possible, which increased their resolve, was achievable despite what seemed to be overwhelming circumstances, and the wolves' triumph also compelled the Galactic Lords to refocus resources to deal with distributing their forces more widely and giving Earth's forces more openings to take advantage of, because requiring them was shattering the unity of their efforts by drawing attention to several areas, which increased the possibility of one of the most important contributions being made to produced gaps in Earth's defenses that might not have otherwise been there. The Cosmic Lords' incapacity to successfully defeat the wolves exposed a more serious weakness in their strategy for fighting, their dependence on technology. Then, rigid hierarchies prepared them to deal with an enemy that relied on instinct and flexibility. This error demonstrated the shortcomings of their approach, which gave priority of overwhelming force over a sophisticated comprehension of the wolf's capacity to repeatedly outmaneuver and outfeint the adversary, showed the importance of adaptability and size, and their existence also impacted the evolution of Earth's military strategies. The incorporation of wolves into operations challenges conventional notions of warfare, leading to a reassessment of tactics and priorities. Commanders started thinking about how they could use other aspects of the natural world to their advantage. This change in viewpoint during the conflict resulted in a greater understanding of the potential of innovative solutions that promote military commanders' inventiveness and receptivity. The wolves, their contributions changed how Earth approached its struggle for existence and went far beyond their immediate act. It is impossible to overestimate the psychological toll that the wolves took on the Galactic Lords in an empire that had long believed that it was unaffected by the knowledge that animals they considered inferior might defeat their troops was extremely disturbing, and the wolves' terror and uncertainty quickly extended throughout soldieries who once marched, lowering morale and making them feel confidently entered combat but started to falter when their self-assurance was damaged by realizing they were being pursued by an adversary they were unable to anticipate or manage. And this decline in morale had a major role in the final loss of the Galactic Lords' military supremacy and the wolves' capacity to remain effective in a variety of battlefronts further cemented their standing as the most valuable resource on Earth by exhibiting an exceptional ability to adjust to shifting circumstances, whether working in dangerous alien environments. Their adaptability made it possible for them to be used in a variety of situations, guaranteeing that their effect was felt on several levels, and their accomplishments in these diverse settings highlighted the significance of modern warfare's flexibility, challenges that would otherwise from the Galactic Lords' reliance on standardized strategies. The wolf's job expanded to encompass increasingly intricate operations that needed even repeating acquisition. The human-wolves partnership developed into a characteristic of Earth's resistance that emphasizes the value of teamwork in conquering obstacles that appear overwhelming. To ensure successful changes, Earth's partnership was founded on respect and trust between the parties, forming a connection that went beyond species, but the common objective of survival, the implementation of lessons for Earth's comprehension of survival and combat. Their accomplishments proved that the natural world had untapped potential that may compete with even the most cutting-edge technologies. This insight led to a more thorough review of how humanity has treated its relationship with nature, stressing the value of protecting it. By using the resources that had allowed life to exist on Earth for thousands of years, the wolves were more than just a weapon of war. The triumph of the wolves served as a stark reminder of how intertwined all life is and how powerful that connection can be. Marked the beginning of the end for the Galaxy Lord's dominion, and how their contributions demonstrated the capabilities of imagination, flexibility, and fortitude to overcome hardship, shown that strength was determined by more than just numbers or technology, but also by the capacity for unconventional thought. The wolf's legacy was not only one of triumph, but also of embracing the unexpected and setting a limit, change that alters humanity's perception of itself and its position in the world. The wolf's role in the conflict was indisputable, and their influence extended well beyond the battlefield. They demonstrated that even in a highly advanced world, human ingenuity and the accuracy of nature can coexist. Dominating struggle, instinct, and flexibility were of unmatched worth. They not only secured crucial triumphs, but also changed how the world perceived its own advantages and disadvantages in the wake of their vial. The legacy of deployment changed humanity's perspective on survival ethics and its position in the cosmos. The wolf's contribution to Earth's survival was widely acknowledged in the early aftermath of the efficacy, emphasized how crucial it is to use natural resources and evolutionary adaptations in ways that heal existence, going beyond conventional uses. These animals were regarded as essential and more than just tools. As the dust settled, allies who had risen to challenge the terrible situation that had been brewing during the Volkslight deployment took center stage in the years following the war, and many people rejoiced. Regardless of their achievements, others expressed doubts about the ethics of utilizing live things at combat. The situation, concerns over consent and autonomy and the long-term effects of such acts stimulated further conversation. These talks impacted policies and practices with greater the importance of treating animals humanely in all spheres of society, including scientific studies of solidarity. Their tale was preserved in literature, art, and instruction. Acting as translation aims at starting us on a reminder of what humanity could do when it accepted the advantages of its natural world, including their history in the curriculum to teach the next generation the value of harmony between. As technology advanced and natural instincts were preserved, wolves also played a crucial role in the success of Earth's military strategy going forward, showing how important it is to include biological systems into combat situations that resulted in the creation of initiatives to investigate comparable partnerships with other species. But wolves stayed at the forefront, and their use stimulated more extensive research on how nature activities that could enhance human creativity in accomplishing strategic goals. This change in strategy marked a new age of military innovation where cooperation and flexibility were valued more highly than purely. The implementation of lessons learned from the wolves affected humanity's wider interaction with global organizations partners in creating the studies, as their efficacy as allies brought attention to the unrealized potential of Earth's ecosystems, inspiring initiatives to maintain and safeguard the planet's biodiversity. Conservation initiatives gained fresh attention as a result of realizing that human life was inextricably related to the well-being of its natural environment. This change in emphasis transformed international politics was a philosophical triumph that reshaped intergalactic relations, not just a military victory. Other advanced civilizations understood from the wolf's success that Earth was not a passive player in the universe, but a force that is resilient and innovative. This insight changed the interstellar diplomacy dynamics, with Earth receiving fresh esteem and becoming a partner instead than a subordinate. And the wolf's legacy was crucial in forming this idea, as their tale became evidence of Earth's capacity to adapt and flourish in the face of insurmountable obstacles. The wolves also had an impact on humanity's perception of itself in the psychological sphere. Their contribution to the conflict served as a reminder of the value of cooperation, flexibility, and a readiness to think outside of the box. These attributes were essential to Earth's identity, creating a relatable, one grill of barracks during relationship for how geographic. A significance of striking a balance between survival and the values of kindness and honesty. The wolf's tail became a metric extinction event. This change's cornerstone serves as a reminder of the necessity of approaching such decisions thoughtfully and humility. The wider effects of wolves' achievements reached Earth's scientific and technical. Their implementation sparked biological systems research, which resulted in advances in agriculture and environmental science. The methods created to train and improve the wolves were modified for application in various disciplines that led to inventions that enhanced people's quality of life worldwide, as these developments showed the interdependence of progress, whereby knowledge gained in one situation may spur advancements in another. Force served as a reminder to humanity of the power that came from cooperating to achieve a common objective, continued long after the war was over, influencing global affairs and cultivating a cooperative attitude that expanded to tackle global issues. The wolf tail became a representation of this unifying endeavor that inspired to create a future characterized by cooperation rather than conflict. As time went on, the wolves were respected. Not monuments were built to honor them as companions in survival as well as heroes of war. In order to ensure that their tale would not be forgotten, ceremonies were conducted to honor their accomplishment was forgotten, leaving a legacy for upcoming generations that reflects their contribution to the past, acted as a reminder of the significance of appreciating and safeguarding the natural world. In addition to the vulnerable story, assumptions changed tactics and reinterpreted what was feasible in the face of profound